really is minimal disturbance. Yes, the speaker limit. Yes, the speaker limit.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Deputy Minister of Police, Deputy Minister of Police, Dr. Bushello. Deputy Minister of Justice, Deputy Minister Nell. Thank you for your presence. To emphasize the importance of the criminal justice system working in an integrated way, and I appreciate your presence. National Commissioner of the South African Police Service, General Fani Masemola. Acting Deputy National Commissioners present, Lieutenant General Sentumule and Lieutenant General Mkoa. Divisional Commissioners. Gauteng Provincial Commissioner. Is he here? I didn't see him. General Tumbeni. Welcome. Representatives of the Civilian Secretariat, IPID and the DPCI, Major General Tulare Sekukune, the SAPS Crime Register, senior SAPS managers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. 3 months ago, on the 28th of November, I released the crime statistics for the first and second quarter of the year from the 1st to the 30th of September 2025. Today I will share the results of the third quarter for the period 1 October the crime transparency and accountability. Are people entitled to know how many crimes are reported to the South African Police Service on a regular basis? What the different categories are, where they live. Businesses and the public service departments in their neighborhoods, in our society, in terms of crime and related risks. Knowledge is power because it enables us to be more effective in the kind of action that is required to improve public safety. Last week we heard during the State of the Nation address that the President has centered public safety with a particular focus on tackling organized crime and gender-based violence being placed at the forefront of the government's agenda in the coming year. I gave further details as to how our approach during my speech before Parliament as part of the debate on SONA, and will emphasize some of this today as part of the release of the crime stats. Overall, the sense of cautious optimism in relation to overall crime trends that I referred to last year remains in place. Most violent crime categories, including murder, rape, robbery, and most property-related crimes like theft and burglary, continued to decrease but remain at unacceptably high levels. After more than a decade of annual increases, murder, our most accurate crime stat, started decreasing on the first quarter of 2023 to 4. This trend has continued throughout this year and this quarter, showing a 8.7 decrease or 602 fewer lives lost. This means that over the last 2 years, the numbers of murders for quarter 3 period, that is the 1st of October to the 31st of December, has dropped by a significant figure, 17.6%, or 1,359 fewer murders. It's very important that we pay attention to the trends with respect to the stats on the murder rate. Total contact crime, made up of all categories of violent crime, started to decrease in the third quarter of 2024 to 5. During this quarter, total violent crime decreased again by 6.7%, or 12,682 fewer cases reported to the South African Police Service when compared with the same quarter last year. Over the last 2 years, total violent crime for this quarter is down by 8.3%, or 15,763 fewer cases. This trend may well be attributable to enhanced policing operations like Operation Chanele. But despite these welcome national trends, the levels of crime, as I've already indicated, remain unacceptably high. The crime situation also varies substantially across the country. It's very important that we pay attention also to the top priority stations. So when you start to look precinct by precinct, station by station, then you're going to see considerable variation. And there are precincts, certainly in the top 30 stations, in violent crime. Attention to. So while most communities have recorded a decrease in violent and property-related crimes, there are still many communities, too many, that have recorded increases. This does not necessarily translate, therefore, into a felt sense of security by individuals, families. That has to be our goal. For example, while we have seen double-digit reductions in murder in 5 provinces, the Free State and Northwest, much smaller decreases were in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, with slight increases recorded in Limpopo and the Northern Cape. And when I looked at this round of stats, Commissioner, I see that the Northern Cape looks like it's a province that needs attention. The killings relating to gang violence in the Eastern and Western Cape in particular, worryingly high. For this quarter, I'm deeply concerned with the notable increase in murder of police officials. Almost 80% of the 23 police officials who lost their lives were off duty. But there were also killings of police carrying out policing operations. This is an issue that I will engage with the SAPS management on. They are always seized with this matter, to look at what else can be done to prevent these killings and to reduce them, the incidents. Again, firearms remain the single largest weapon driving murder, robbery, and organized crime in our country. This is really one of the key challenges that we have to get a better handle on if we're going to reduce the incidence of violent contact crime in our country. As the President noted in the SONA speech, we will be taking additional measures to address this scourge with a focus on removing illegal firearms and preventing legal firearms from falling into the wrong hands. This remains an enduring challenge. The classification of national disaster demands that we intensify our efforts to interpersonal, domestic and gender-based violence takes place in intimate contexts between husbands and wives, adults and children. And that might explain why it is not an easy task for this to be addressed through governmental action, public action, because it's taking place in private, intimate contexts. But the President has classified this as a national disaster, and in the department, Bushello, as I keep saying, because I want that to be understood and to prioritize this matter, and Dr. Bushello, supported by the Civilian Secretariat, will undertake a proper evaluation of what we are doing as far as the South African Police Service is concerned, where the gaps are, with a view to determining what further remedies are required. We are taking steps to strengthen the policing approach to GBVNF and other forms of violence. For example, the South African Police Service is allocated an additional 999 while we also need to give attention to implementing the integrated crime. This requires that different the social departments such as health, education and social development to be aligned their services across to mitigate the factors that drive crime and violence so that it can be prevented from happening. And this includes gang violence. My message to the leaders in the provinces and in local authorities in those areas affected by gang violence is that my focus has to be on law enforcement as the Minister of Police, but those communities need development. Young people there need opportunity. So there needs to be a greater focus on social provision and the development agenda in those communities if we are going to be successful over the long term in dealing with gang-related violence. I will be hosting a meeting of all provincial heads of community safety, including some premiers, where the premiers themselves exercise the safety portfolio, which we call a MINMEC, on the 6th of March from now. This meeting is important to ensure that we agree on priorities. I'm in conversation with the National Commissioner on agreement at provincial and local level across the country. That's really the purpose of this MINMEC, and the focus there will also be on strong implementation of the integrated crime and violence prevention strategy, for the reasons I'm emphasizing, that there is a relationship between prevention and after-the-fact policing, and there is a relationship between our economic and social agendas on the one hand and the challenge of law enforcement to improve the levels of safety in our communities. And the Civilian Secretariat officials who are here are the ones who have developed this strategy, and we are now focusing it's my major focus to try and improve the implementation of this integrated, holistic, all government, all of society approach to. We also need to ensure that communities are supported with at the local level programs to improve public safety. This has to be done within the framework of the law, where communities take the law into their own hands. This only creates further problems in communities and for an already overstretched police service. But I am committed, as one of the pillars of our fight against crime, to reactivate, re-energize community policing, because I'm convinced that that initiative, which was introduced early on in our transition to a constitutional democracy, is the right approach. And somehow along the way we lost a little bit of energy and focus. So I will therefore be looking at reinvigorating community policing by establishing a national community patroller program that will run in each province. And I'm hoping to use the MINMEX to persuade the leadership in those provinces to implement such a patroller program. I've asked the Civilian Secretariat for the Police to develop the concept and fund with the objective of enabling community members to receive training and stipends to assist with improving safety in their localities. I learned quite a lot from the way we approached this in Gauteng many years ago. We had a very successful community program, but the way we thought about it was as a single window. So in distressed families, these stipends have the possibility of adding to the income stream to such families. If you think about a family that's receiving a pension and other forms of social assistance, in addition a stipend, it is small, but it's not meaningless, and my experience has been that it really helps build community cohesion when you involve the community itself in mobilizing to improve safety and to work alongside the police service. They will not be undertaking policing functions, but be deployed to ensure that there are people who can call the through their presence prevent crime from happening in places such as schools and other places where there are safety challenges. Certainly in the high gang areas in the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape, such a program can be. I want to be clear that I do not intend to promote a single model, because in many areas communities have taken their own initiatives, and that's what I want to encourage. There's no one-size-fits-all. There may be, I'm interested in the patroller program, particularly in the most marginalized communities, but there are various options available, and I want to find ways of supporting those initiatives. I think this is the moment in which the country can be mobilized to improve policing and to become once again involved in the struggle to improve community safety. Then tackling organized crime, which I have to say is of a wholly different order from the challenges that we've had in dealing with contact crime, which in a sense is ordinary crime. I think organized crime is of a different order. It requires a new response. The kind of organized crime that is bedeviling our country increasingly is not just a South African problem. It is a problem in many jurisdictions across the world. I noticed recently that the police in Canada produced a report which sounds like a report about South Africa. It's about the infiltration of criminal cartels into both public and private. their methodology that these cartels are using is one that we are also experiencing, but it's an experience everywhere. And I think it's an evolving challenge in our country that we need to challenge in a bold way, in an imaginative way, and recognize that this is not, that we need a new paradigm in a way to deal with an evolving threat to our national security. As the President clearly stated last week in the SONA, organized crime is now the most immediate threat to our democracy, our society, and our economic development. Those are strong words to come from the President, and I think those words should be heeded. As I have mentioned before, most organized crime is not recorded in the crime stats as such. Most extortion of small businesses, and think about the impact that is having on personal security, but just the ability of people to thrive, to create livelihoods in their communities. Most extortion of small businesses is not reported to the police, because that reporting, as Dr. Bushela was pointing out to me, people who report to the police are literally taking their lives into their own hands. Not reported to the police, nor is most corruption and fraud in public and private sectors will not be found in the stats. And I am making that point because we have to also understand, if we want to have a proper understanding of what our people are living and experiencing in communities, then the stats themselves are not the only reference point. Nevertheless, the impacts of these crimes is real and severely damaging for our country. When public funds are stolen on a large scale, we feel it in the most direct ways. Local level organized corruption in tendering, copper cable theft syndicates, possibly even in the water sector, contribute to outages of water and electricity that causes distress in families and communities across our country. The quality of crucial public services like education, healthcare, and transport is undermined when public funds allocated for these services is stolen. In the private sector, the costs of goods and services increase as private companies charge more to make up for losses in stock of fraud or incur additional security costs to prevent becoming victims to syndicated crime. As the Madlanga Commission and parliamentary ad hoc inquiries have shown, organized criminality has infiltrated our criminal justice system. We have already established a dedicated task team to investigate evidence of criminality. That is the National Commissioner, Commissioner Masemola, and I were given very clear instructions by the President, and we have made sure that team has been set up. I want to stress that team is conducting criminal investigations against those identified police officers, but also those Metro Police. And together with the mayor in Ekurhuleni, we agreed that both he and I will ensure that our departments take the necessary disciplinary action as well through precautionary suspensions, the setting up of disciplinary panels. The National Commission and I have agreed that the panels that will be set up to deal with those disciplinary cases will be presided over by an outside expert. In other words, not somebody appointed from within the police service, to give an additional level of assurance to the public that we mean business. Our approach in tackling organized crime should have at least two elements. Firstly, we must identify those involved through vetting and lifestyle audits of our top ranks. So it was very important that the President announced that the Minister of State Security, State Security Agency, will vet and conduct lifestyle audits of the senior management in the South African Police Service, and they will be doing so with my support and the support of the National Commissioner and his senior team. Those who associate with criminals or involve themselves in criminality and corruption have no place in the criminal justice system. The South African Police Service's top management echelon must consist only of experienced commanders of unquestionable integrity. We must establish an organizational culture characterized by professionalism, integrity, and accountability throughout the organization. Just as we say sometimes that the fish rots from the head, we also know what would be a positive way of saying this, Commissioner. When there's an example set at the top, then that sets the tone for the rest of the organization. Secondly, organized crime must be recognized as sophisticated, well networked, and enabled by professional lawyers and accountants who use sophisticated business structures, who accumulate huge amounts of wealth. That's what we are currently dealing with. Therefore, specialized capabilities for identifying individuals and networks have to be, in the police service, have to be strengthened so that we can be effective in our efforts to dismantle their operations, seize their resources, and send those implicated to prison. In the short term, where the effects of organized crime threaten lives and livelihoods, such as gang violence and illegal mining, think about the devastation being caused across the country by the illegal miners. Additional security resources will be enhanced by bolstering the anti-gang units and deploying the most advanced units of the South African Police Service and the South African National Defence Force. The National Commission and I have had a conversation about this. In addition to the deployment of the South African National Defence Force, we are going to be taking steps to be strengthening the gang units, equipping them properly, and deploying the most advanced units. And that's a matter that the National Commissioner will deal with when he's ready. So the response to the gang violence is multifaceted. We're looking at strengthening policing. We're looking at strengthening the contribution that all levels of government make to development. And we are looking at, because we have to bring an end to the killings, at deploying the South African Defence Force in a supportive role. And as I've stressed, we have learned from past experiences. We're not going to make the same mistakes. We are going to deploy those additional resources in a way that understands the skills and respective mandates of the South African Police Service and the South African Defence Force. Those are distinct mandates. They have complementary roles in the fight against gang violence. Let me clear that this deployment, therefore, is under the command of the South African Police Service, and it's in support of their operations, in particular